Welcome to the USS Pentagonal. The swords in the Middle East are fully drawn. After Iran launched 300 drones and ballistic missiles into Israeli territory, the Israeli military launched a stunning simultaneous retaliatory strike against Iran, Syria, and Iraq. In the early morning hours of Friday, it was revealed that Israel carried out airstrikes against Iranian cities such as Isfahan and Tabriz, Iraqi cities of Baghdad, Mosul, and Erbil, and southern Syrian towns such as Suwaida and Daraa. However, in addition to these details, the most striking issue in the attack was the information that Russian defense systems were located in the areas targeted by Israel. But despite this, material damage occurred in the settlements where the attacks took place. The first place where Russian defense systems did not completely repel Israeli attacks was the Iranian city of Isfahan. According to open-source researchers who monitored satellite imagery, Isfahan was home to a military airbase with F-14 fighter jets that housed S-300 anti-aircraft batteries, a sophisticated air defense system built by Russia. The area in Isfahan protected by the S-300 air defense systems was the base area of the Iranian Army's F-14 Tomcat fighter jet squadron, based at the 8th Shekhari base. The Israeli strike was the first to hit this Iranian military base protected by the S-300. It is known that these drone strikes were not completely intercepted by the Russian-made air defense systems and missiles deployed at the Iranian military base in Isfahan, causing material damage to the military base area. Local sources reported that Israeli drones damaged the runways at the Iranian military base. International media sources, on the other hand, claimed that this military base was the site of an Iranian attack on Israel with more than 300 drones and ballistic missiles. The attack signaled to Iran that the Mossad can strike Iran's most strategic military and nuclear facilities, where it secretly plans to attack Iran without openly using the Israeli army or aircraft. In other words, Israel has proved that it can target any area in Iran, despite Russian defenses. One of the attacks that proved this was in the Iranian city of Tabriz. It was among the latest reports that the military bases of the Iranian army in Tabriz were also damaged. Iranian officials announced that quadricopter drones were seen in the airspace in Tabriz. It is claimed that Russian defense missiles are also present in this settlement. In addition to Iranian territory, Israeli airstrikes in Iraq and Syria have also reportedly penetrated the Russian-made S-300 air defense systems in these areas. On Friday morning, local Syrian media sources reported that Israeli airstrikes targeted Syrian army positions in Suwaida and Daraa governorates in southern Syria. According to local news sources, the airstrikes destroyed radar sites belonging to the Syrian army between Karda and Izraya in the southern Syrian province of Daraa. The Syrian opposition news website Daraa 24 reported that Israeli jets struck a military battalion near the town of Karfa in the southern province of Daraa. UK-based Syrian human rights and opposition war monitor Rami Abdurrahman, head of the observatory, said that 6 Israeli warplanes entered Syrian airspace and flew east when they were detected by radar. The Russian S-300 air defense batteries were located in the Syrian settlements targeted by Israel, but the news that Israeli forces successfully eliminated Iranian military sources in Syria through drone strikes has shocked the media. As we have seen, the areas that Iran controls and protects in Syria with Russian air defense systems have turned out to be vulnerable to Israeli strikes. Breaking reports following the strikes, showing pro-Iranian proxies moving their military resources from the Aleppo airbase in Syria and weapons depots in Deir ez-Zor to different areas, proved the distrust of Russia by Tehran-backed armed groups. This is because the armed proxies reportedly feared possible Israeli strikes on their air bases in Syria. In addition to Syria, the situation in the settlements in Iraq, one of the targets of Israeli strikes, was also quite remarkable. For the first time, the Israeli Air Force targeted pro-Iranian armed elements in Iraq. In fact, it was stated that the focal point of the Israeli strikes was a building in the south of the Iraqi capital, Baghdad. Before the attack took place in this building, it was claimed that members of Kataib Hezbollah, one of the pro-Iranian armed elements, were in a secret meeting. It was later reported that Israeli airstrikes targeted this building and interrupted the meeting of Kataib Hezbollah members. After the attack on the building, not many details about the dead or injured were shared. Following the Israeli attacks in Iran, Iraq, and Syria, the first reactions from Russia, which has influence in these areas and provides military support to these regions, began to come. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said on Friday that Russia had made it clear to Israel that Iran does not want to escalate tensions, following reports that Israel was launching retaliatory strikes against its arch-rival. Sergei Lavrov emphasized that there were telephone conversations between the leaders and representatives of Russia, Israel, and Iran, in which Moscow's position was made clear. Following these statements, the focus turned to Russian President Vladimir Putin. However, at the moment, Putin has not made a clear statement on the issue. It remains to be seen what Putin thinks about Israel's attacks on Iran and Syria, which also target Russian air defense systems. Important assessments continued to come from countries and international organizations about Israel's attacks targeting Iran and its pro-Iranian military sources in the Middle East. In a statement on Friday, the United Arab Emirates Foreign Ministry expressed concern over regional tensions and called for utmost restraint to avoid serious repercussions. Jordanian Foreign Minister Ayman Safadi warned on Friday of the danger of regional tensions, saying Israeli-Iranian retaliations must stop. Meanwhile, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz called for de-escalation following the attack on the Iranian city of Isfahan and said Berlin would work with its partners to do so. In addition to Germany, an assessment on this issue came from the G7 ministers. On Friday, the G7 foreign ministers called on all parties to work to prevent further escalation in the Middle East, following reports that Israel had carried out revenge strikes against Iran. A statement on Israel's attacks on Iran also came from Spain. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez on Friday called on all sides to avoid an escalation of the conflict in the Middle East, following reports that Israel had launched retaliatory strikes against Iran. Japan was among the countries expressing concern about the situation in the Middle East. Japanese officials expressed deep concern about the situation in the Middle East and strongly condemned any action that could lead to escalation. So with calls for restraint coming from all over the world, what is Iran's position right now? It is believed that Iran is not planning a retaliatory attack against Israel. The Tehran regime announced that life has returned to normal in settlements such as Isfahan and Tabriz after the Israeli airstrikes, and flights have resumed at the airports in these two settlements. Some of the political figures within the Tehran administration, on the other hand, pointed out that there are those within the Israeli administration who find these attacks weak and suggested that Iranian territory may be subjected to another airstrike. There has been no such move or statement from Israel yet. Israeli officials have stayed away from clear and precise statements even about the attacks on Iran for the time being. In other words, there is a serious air of uncertainty in the Middle East at the moment. While it remains to be seen which side will make the first move, there are those who think that the waters will gradually calm down in the region. In terms of the global economy and the general situation in the Middle East, this view is quite logical. The U.S. plays an important role in this. The White House has been in constant contact with Israeli and Iranian officials on the issue through political channels to try to get both sides to calm down. Thank you for following us.